The locker room door slammed shut behind Muhammad Ali as he collapsed onto the wooden bench, his body finally allowing itself to feel the punishment it had absorbed over 8 brutal rounds in the suffocating heat of Kinshasa. Sweat poured from every pore as Dr. Ferdi Pacheco immediately began examining the champion's hands, looking for signs of the damage that everyone knew had to be there. "Jesus Christ, Muhammad," Angelo Dundee whispered, his voice barely audible over the celebration happening outside. "I thought we lost you in the 4th round. When Foreman was teeing off on you against the ropes, I was ready to throw in the towel." Ali's chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath in the stifling African heat. "Don't you ever," he gasped between breaths, "don't you ever think about throwing in that towel. I had him exactly where I wanted him." Bundini Brown, Ali's spiritual advisor and cornerman, was pacing frantically around the small room. "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. That's what we said, champ. But you didn't float tonight. You let that monster pound on you for 7 rounds. "Bundini's right," Dr. Pacheco said, pressing his fingers against Ali's ribs. "This strategy of yours, this rope-a-dope thing, it's going to kill you if you keep using it. Your body can't take that kind of punishment forever." Ali winced as the doctor probed a particularly tender spot. "Doc, sometimes you got to take some pain to give some pain. Foreman hit harder than anyone I ever fought, but he got tired. They all get tired eventually." The door burst open, and Herbert Muhammad, Ali's manager and son of Nation of Islam leader Elijah Muhammad, rushed in with a look of barely controlled panic. "Muhammad, we need to talk. Now. Privately." Dundee and the others exchanged glances. Herbert's tone suggested this wasn't about celebrating the victory. "Give us a minute, guys," Ali said, struggling to sit up straighter. When the room cleared except for Herbert, the manager's composure cracked. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The financial implications of what happened out there?" Ali stared at him, confused. "I won the heavyweight championship of the world. Again. What financial implications?" Herbert pulled out a folded telegram from his jacket pocket. "This came in during the 6th round. Don King's people, Foreman's promoters, they had side bets worth millions riding on this fight. Money that certain people in Vegas and New York were counting on." "So? So those people don't lose millions of dollars quietly, Muhammad. They're already making calls. They want to know how a 32-year-old fighter who hadn't fought in 3 years managed to outbox the most devastating puncher in heavyweight history." Ali's expression darkened. "Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Herbert said quickly. "I'm telling you what other people are thinking. They're saying the fight was fixed. They're saying Foreman took a dive." The accusation hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Ali stood up slowly, his body protesting every movement. "Herbert, I want you to listen to me very carefully. I beat George Foreman because I'm a better fighter than George Foreman. I beat him because I was smarter, because I had a better plan, and because when it mattered most, I had more heart." "I believe you," Herbert said. "But belief doesn't matter when you're dealing with people who lost serious money tonight." Before Ali could respond, the door opened again and Don King himself walked in, his wild hair even more disheveled than usual. Behind him was a man Ali didn't recognize, wearing an expensive suit despite the African heat. "Muhammad, the greatest upset in boxing history," King exclaimed, but his usual bombastic energy seemed forced. "Though I have to say, some people are asking questions." The man in the suit stepped forward. "Mr. Ali, my name is Vincent Torino. I represent certain business interests in Las Vegas. We need to have a conversation." Ali looked at the man's cold eyes and immediately understood what kind of business interests he represented. "I don't think we have anything to talk about, Mr. Torino." "Oh, but we do," Torino replied smoothly. "You see, a lot of very important people lost a lot of money tonight, money they were counting on. Money they had already spent, if you understand my meaning. That sounds like their problem, not mine. Torino smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Ali, I think you misunderstand the situation. When people like my associates lose money because of unexpected results, they tend to look for explanations. And sometimes those explanations involve federal investigations into fight fixing. The threat was clear, and everyone in the room understood it. Herbert stepped between Ali and Torino. What exactly are you proposing? Nothing complicated, Torino said. Mr. Ali has a rematch clause in his contract with Foreman. We simply want to ensure that the next fight goes according to plan. George wins his title back. Everyone's happy, and certain uncomfortable questions never get asked. Ali's jaw tightened. Get out. Excuse me? I said get out, now, before I forget that I'm in a foreign country and can't afford to get arrested for assault. Torino's expression hardened. Mr. Ali, you're making a mistake. These people I represent, they have long memories and longer reaches. And I have something they don't, Ali replied, stepping closer to the man. I have nothing left to lose. I've already been stripped of my title once, banned from boxing for 3 years, called a traitor and a coward. You think I'm afraid of some gangsters in expensive suits? Don King, sensing the situation spiraling out of control, stepped between them. Gentlemen, let's all take a step back here. Vincent, I think you've made your point. Muhammad, perhaps we should consider all our options. The only option I'm considering, Ali said, his voice rising, is how fast I can get this piece of garbage out of my sight. Torino straightened his tie and headed for the door. This conversation isn't over, Mr. Ali. Enjoy your victory tonight. It may be your last. After Torino left, the room fell silent except for the distant sounds of celebration from the arena. King looked genuinely shaken. Muhammad, you need to understand what you're dealing with here. These aren't people you want as enemies. Don, I've had the United States government as an enemy. I've had half the country calling for my head. You think some casino owners scare me? Herbert sat down heavily on the bench. This is bigger than just casino owners, Muhammad. The money that was bet on this fight, it came from everywhere. Pension funds, union money, even some government connections. When you upset Foreman tonight, you didn't just beat one man. You cost a lot of very powerful people a lot of money. Dr. Pacheco, who had been quietly listening from the corner, finally spoke up. Muhammad, maybe you should consider what they're asking. One fight, you take a dive, you walk away with millions, and this all goes away. Ali turned to stare at his longtime physician. Doc, did you just suggest I throw a fight? I'm suggesting you consider your options. These people, they don't make idle threats. And I don't make idle promises, Ali shot back. I promised the world I would beat George Foreman, and I did it. I'm not going to soil that victory by agreeing to lose the rematch. Bundini, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. Champ, what if they're right? What if they can make trouble for you with the government? You just got your career back. You want to risk losing it again? Ali looked around the room at the faces of the men he trusted most in the world and saw fear in every one of them. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Even his own people were ready to ask him to compromise his principles to avoid a fight. You know what the difference is between me and George Foreman? Ali asked quietly. It's not speed, it's not power, it's not even intelligence. The difference is that George fights for money and glory. I fight for something bigger than that. He walked to the small window that looked out over the arena where 40,000 people were still celebrating. Those people out there, they didn't come to see Muhammad Ali get rich. They came to see Muhammad Ali prove that a man can stand up to any bully, no matter how big, no matter how powerful. Angelo Dundee, who had been silent through the entire conversation, finally spoke. Muhammad, I've been with you for 15 years. I've seen you make a lot of hard choices, but this might be the hardest one yet. No, Angelo, Ali replied, turning back to face the room. This is the easiest choice I've ever made. I didn't come back to boxing to make deals with criminals. I came back to prove that Muhammad Ali is still the greatest heavyweight in the world." Herbert shook his head. "And if they follow through on their threats? If they find a way to destroy your career again?" "Then they destroy it," Ali said simply. "But they'll destroy a champion, not a coward." The room fell silent again. Finally, Don King cleared his throat. "Muhammad, what if we could find a middle ground? What if we could structure the rematch so that it looks competitive, but George still wins? You could make it look good, go down swinging in the late rounds." Ali's response was immediate and final. "Don, if you ever suggest something like that to me again, you'll be looking for a new heavyweight champion to promote." King raised his hands in surrender. Okay, I had to ask. But Muhammad, you need to understand what you're up against here." "I understand perfectly," Ali replied. "I'm up against the same thing I've always been up against. People who think they can buy me, control me, or intimidate me into being something I'm not." Dr. Pacheco began packing up his medical bag. "Muhammad, I've been your doctor for 10 years. I've seen you take punishment that would kill most men. But this is different. This isn't about physical damage. This is about your life, your family's safety. Doc, my family's safety depends on me being the kind of man they can be proud of. If I throw a fight, if I make a deal with these people, what kind of example am I setting for my children?" Bundini walked over and put his hand on Ali's shoulder. "Champ, you're the bravest man I know, but sometimes the brave thing is knowing when to bend so you don't break." Ali looked at his old friend with genuine sadness. "Bundini, you of all people should understand. We've been through everything together. The conversion to Islam, the stand against the war, the exile from boxing. Did we come this far just to give up now?" "We came this far to survive," Bundini replied. "And sometimes survival means making compromises." "No," Ali said firmly. "Sometimes survival means refusing to compromise. Sometimes it means standing up and saying, 'This far and no further.'" Herbert stood up and walked to the door. "I need to make some calls, see if we can find another way to handle this situation." "The only way to handle it," Ali called after him, "is to tell these people that Muhammad Ali doesn't make deals with criminals." After Herbert left, the remaining men sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Angelo spoke. "Muhammad, I've never asked you to change your mind about anything. Not when you converted to Islam, not when you refused induction, not when you came back after 3 years. But I'm asking you now, please just consider what they're offering." Ali sat back down on the bench, suddenly feeling every one of his 32 years. "Angelo, do you remember what you told me before the Sonny Liston fight? You said that some moments define a man's entire life." Angelo nodded. "This is one of those moments," Ali continued. "If I agree to throw the rematch, it doesn't matter what else I accomplish. That's what I'll be remembered for. Muhammad Ali, the champion who made a deal with the mob. And if you refuse and they destroy you, then I'll be remembered as Muhammad Ali, the champion who wouldn't be bought." Don King, who had been making quiet phone calls in the corner, walked back over to the group. "Muhammad, I've been talking to some people. There might be a way to make this whole thing go away without a rematch. What if we could arrange for you to retire, announce that the Foreman fight was your last, go out on top, and let them think they scared me into retirement?" Ali shook his head. "Not a chance." "It would solve the problem," King insisted. "You keep your victory. They don't lose face. Everyone moves on." "Everyone except the millions of people who believe in what I represent," Ali replied. "What do I tell them? That I retired because some criminals threatened me? Doctor." Pacheco closed his medical bag with a snap. "Muhammad, I've patched you up after dozens of fights. I've seen you hurt, exhausted, beaten down. But I've never seen you quit. Don't start now." The unexpected support from his doctor seemed to energize Ali. "That's right, Doc. I didn't quit when they took away my title. I didn't quit when they banned me from boxing. I'm not going to quit now because some gangsters lost money on a bet." Bandini looked up from where he had been sitting with his head in his hands. "So what do we do, champ? How do we fight people like this?" "The same way we fight everyone else," Ali replied. "We outthink them, we outwork them, and we outlast them." Angelo stood up and walked to the door. "I need some air. This whole situation, it's making me sick." After Angelo left, Ali found himself alone with Bandini and Dr. Pacheco. The celebration outside seemed to be winding down, and the reality of what lay ahead was beginning to sink in. "Champ," Bandini said quietly, "what if they're right? What if this is bigger than just boxing?" "Then we make it about more than just boxing," Ali replied. "We make it about whether a man can stand up for what he believes in, even when the whole world is against him." Dr. Pacheco shook his head. "Mohammed, you're talking about taking on organized crime, corrupt politicians, maybe even federal agencies. You're one man." "I'm one man who happens to be the heavyweight champion of the world," Ali corrected. "And I've got something they don't have. I've got people who believe in me." As if to prove his point, the door opened and a young African journalist entered, followed by several other members of the international press. "Mr. Ali, could we have a few words about your victory tonight?" Ali looked at the eager faces of the reporters and realized that this was his opportunity, not just to celebrate his victory, but to send a message to anyone who thought they could intimidate him. "Gentlemen," he said, standing up and straightening his shoulders, "tonight was about more than just boxing. Tonight was about proving that no man, no matter how powerful he thinks he is, can break the spirit of someone who refuses to be broken." The reporters scribbled frantically as Ali continued. "There are people who thought George Foreman was unbeatable. There are people who thought Muhammad Ali was finished. Tonight we proved them all wrong." One of the journalists raised his hand. "Mr. Ali, there are already rumors about a rematch. Are you prepared for another fight with Foreman?" Ali smiled, and for the first time since entering the locker room, it was genuine. "Son, I'm prepared for any fight that comes my way. That's what champions do. We fight." As the impromptu press conference continued, Bandini and Dr. Pacheco exchanged glances. They both knew that Ali had just declared war on some very dangerous people. But they also knew that trying to change his mind would be like trying to stop a hurricane with an umbrella. Muhammad Ali had made his choice. Now all that remained was to see who would blink first. If you made it this far and felt every word, you won't leave without subscribing, will you? I tell these stories with my heart in my hands to reach people like you who feel, who get emotional, who truly live. If this really touched you, give back. Comment, subscribe. Come be part of this family with me until the next video.